Now I'm going to jump forward in time 16 years to the year 1955, and we're going to look same magazine, same people. There's the insignia there, and here you see August 1955. Now I have others of these from the early 50s. I don't have any from the 40s, but I found that I'm not going to go through everything in them. I just want to show this one article. It's lengthy, and it begins on page 835. It's called Return to the Gold Standard by Nathan A. Bowers. Okay, and this is on the same page, talking about his article touches only briefly on the possibility of return to the gold standard and then dismisses it as inadvisable for the usual reasons which tie in closely with a gold price of $35 per ounce. And there's his credentials there. See that? Next caption. Just as our depreciated dollar will no longer buy as much in goods or services as it once did, neither is it worth as much in gold as formerly. In other words, if our depreciated paper dollars are to be freely redeemed in gold, more than 35 of them must be paid for an ounce of gold. It has been arranged that our dollar abroad has the support of the central banks at the stated price of 35 paper dollars per ounce of gold. At home, our financial policy has not been such as to provide the private citizen with any protection against inflation. No check or restraint such as freely circulating gold would impose. There are those who claim that return to the gold standard at any paper-to-gold ratio above $35 per ounce amounts to still further tampering with the value of the dollar and weakening confidence in its integrity. Scroll on down here. In a situation in which we as a nation have commitments impossible to meet in the money of 1914, when $20 in currency bought an ounce of gold and could at any time be exchanged for it. In short, whether we like it or not, the write-down of our paper dollar already has occurred. The question now is whether we, A, go on issuing more promissory notes on a fictitious basis, leading to monetary collapse, or declare a halt on inflation and use the stabilizing effect of gold to keep our paper dollar from further debasement. There is nothing complicated about putting an effective brake on manipulations which bring easy money to meet budgetary deficits. The surefire procedure is to return to the gold standard and stabilize our monetary system right where it is, without pride or in any fictitious values. Talking about the restoration of the gold standard here. Any such reevaluation, of course, means that we must pay more, much more for gold than we did 20 years ago. It remains to be seen whether the price of gold will be changed while we are masters of the situation or by a chaotic route. If without further waste of time we plan carefully the restoration of the international gold standard, a price of $70 per ounce would probably accomplish what we seek. If, on the other hand, we wait until we cease to be masters of the situation, the price of gold will be changed by a chaotic route, and it may reach indeed an abnormally high level. In terms of quantity of gold produced, the United States is number 4 on the list of gold-producing countries, but our 2 million ounces is only 1/6 the annual production of the Union of South Africa. And boy, didn't South Africa have a strong currency. Don't they have a strong currency? I'm just saying. Because gold always has been and always will be in short supply, its true value, get that, always in short supply, its true value does not change greatly. However, it may be quoted higher or lower if the quotation is in terms of an irredeemable currency whose value is continually changing. The 1934 withdrawal of gold. Our dollar has been steadily declining over a long period of years, during which there have been 2 world wars. In this time, we have gradually built up a national economy geared to values out of all proportion to what they were before. It is wholly misleading to say that in 1934 the value of gold was raised to $35 per ounce. A much more accurate statement would be that in 1934 a presidential decree admitted that the value of our dollars had depreciated, that no longer would 20 of them buy an ounce of gold. 35 would now be required. The catch was that no gold exchange was offered. Instead, gold was called in. If the ratio of 35-1 had been a fair and accurate comparison of the 1934 paper dollar with gold, there would have been no necessity to take gold out of circulation. What? By far, the more significant phase of the 1934 decree was this withdrawal of all gold from free circulation under threat of fine and imprisonment. That move made it possible to conceal the declining value of the dollar at the same time that it deprived the citizens of the one important restraint on inflation. Yes, sir. If everybody had gold, there wouldn't be any inflation. Since then, we have traveled so far along the downward path of easy money that nothing short of a monetary revolution could get us back up the steep decline of depreciating dollar values. Imagine the reaction of labor leaders just now flushed with new industrial victories if they were asked to take a 50% wage cut. On the other hand, to fail to check the sinking dollar value is to follow the now familiar pattern of what has happened to the mark in Germany, to the franc in France, and to the Chinese dollar in China. All of these recent examples of continued uncontrolled inflation provide convincing evidence that the mere printing of paper money does not bring wealth. There is a sharp lesson for us in these other countries, where monetary collapse has already occurred. In China, for example, toward the end of the debacle, the printing presses simply could not keep abreast of the rapidly sinking values of unsupported currency. The Chinese dollar went down and down until 6 million of them were required to buy what $1 bought before. Only one way out, and it can happen here. We are definitely headed that way. The way out is to admit the decline in the value of our dollar, declare it to be what it is, actually is, in terms of the persistent value of gold, and then prove the honesty of our appraisal by a willingness to exchange gold for our currency. Next, this is J.E. Holloway's opinion on this. I felt this was interesting. Gold is more stable in value over both long and short periods than anything else known. It is far and away the best material for honest money. Paper, on the other hand, has almost none of the qualities for honest money. However, if paper is truly representative, when it does represent honest money, it should be interchangeable at the will of the holder for real money, such as gold. When that condition obtains, we can safely enjoy the convenience of lightweight paper while it serves as money of account. For example, a promise to pay. But once the safeguard of interchangeability is removed, the money of account quickly becomes of less and less account until it finally becomes money of no account. This process is taking place before our eyes today, while a misguided public is led to believe that we are undergoing a rise in the cost of living. In other words, he's saying the rise of cost of living is just simply because the dollar is being devalued. Nor is this in the United States alone. all over the world, governments are taking goods and services from the citizens in return for unhonored promises to pay. And the citizens, having been taught to tamely submit, do nothing about it in a time when men knew what it was to be free. King Charles's head fell for less. There is only one way out, namely write down depreciated money to its correct value in terms of real honest money. The first step is to find out what our money of account is really worth, the gold equivalent. I would think that you should know that already. Then when a citizen can convert his paper money into equivalent gold at will, governments will be careful not to issue more money than they can redeem on demand. Let's just starve everybody out. Let's just starve everybody out. Scrolling on down here. There will be no room for private saving, and communism is the inevitable end of this march. Excuse me, that prophecy didn't happen, didn't it? Now look at this, I find this interesting. Lenin is credited with saying, if you want to wipe out capitalism, debauch their currency. Well, excuse me, that's a great statement from somebody whose currency was never worth anything in the first place, was it? Why, during Lenin's reign in Russia, everybody was starving. Millions of people died of hunger. It was total mayhem. And you got to remember also, Lenin was only in charge of Russia. You hear all this Lenin stuff. He was only a president or dictator, whatever, commissar, whatever, of Russia for 4 years. 4 long years. Hazlitt's gradual approach. It is estimated that there are about 89 paper currencies in the world, most of them inconvertible. Hazlitt has worked out a sliding scale plan for return to the gold standard, calculated to give advance warning that will cushion the inevitable shock of paying the price for monetary folly. If we act now, on the 1955 basis, something like the widely recommended 70-to-1 ratio would be feasible. The ratio will undoubtedly be much higher if we do nothing, and hence follow the chaotic route. Gold in citizens' hands. Coming then to a summation of the whole matter, the immediate and urgent need is to return to the gold standard and remove any restrictions on ownership of gold by the private citizen. This will be no more than restoring to him a right that never should have been taken away. This restoration should be followed by pegging our present-day silver certificates at a definite redeemable value in gold. Say 70 paper dollars per ounce of gold. Finally, the natural way to carry out the willingness to exchange gold for our paper would be to strike gold coins in the value to ratio established for paper. The size of such a coin can be visualized when we remember that the U.S. $20 gold piece, or double eagle, weighed approximately an ounce. And here's just some more there. Now I'm going to show this book here. This is one of my dad's. I grew up with this one, and I recently found it from 1963, and it's like a coin guide, what coins are worth, etc. And we're going to jump over to page 102. Double eagles, $20 gold pieces. Now, again, the eagle was the $10 gold piece, half eagle was the $5, quarter eagle was the $2.50 gold piece. So a double eagle is always a $20 gold piece. And you see here it's in circulation from 1850 to 1932. And here we read, this series is not collected extensively by dates except by the more wealthy collectors due to the high face value. Most of the dates are not scarce except in uncirculated or proof condition. 1883 is the scarcest date, as only 40 were coined. Proofs before 1890 are quite scarce, as only 25 to 35 pieces each year were struck, and we're going to look at those later. That's right, in that condition. The last year of coinage, 1933, was not officially released, but we're going to look at some of that. They stamped out a bunch of them, 45,000 of them, and several of them leaked out into the public. But we're going to look at that later. And here I'm jumping up 5 years into the future to September of 1968. This is from the 4th, and I had several of these, but I'm just going to highlight this one here and maybe another one. And we're going to look here at page 19. Treasury reports U.S. gold silver exports. The United States exported $300 million worth of gold and $41.1 million in silver to foreign nations during June. Figures recently released by the Treasury Department reveal. Okay, well, let's see. The average citizen in the United States at that time, 1968, cannot purchase or own gold, but we're selling 300 million. We're exporting 300 million of it. Treasury reports indicated that the U.S. sent $300.6 million to England. All right, sent to England. That word sent, that four-letter word there, has a lot of money and logistics in back of it. It's ships, guards, personnel, accountants, etc., etc. And did the gold increase in value? Perhaps not. $300.6 million to England, although officials declined to discuss why such a large shipment was made in bullion. Well, I got a question is, well, was it perhaps England's gold in the first place? I'm just asking. But despite the $300.6 million outflow, the United States gold stock increased in June by $213 million, primarily because of French sales during riots and strikes. Okay, so get your calculators out. If they sold $300.6 million and they gained by $213 million, that means to me that $513 million came into the country. What? Yeah, $500 million worth of gold. All that logistics, and I'm just going to scroll down here a little bit, let you look at it there. Now, same catalog or book, we're going to page 25, and we're going to look at this particular caption here, expensive mistake. A couple drove up to a bank's drive-in window in Bellingham, Washington, and handed a teller a $100 note and asked for change. The teller, mistaking the note for a $1,000 bill, handed back that amount of money. The couple left and haven't been heard from since. Well, there's two scenarios to that. Did the teller know the people who wanted to cash the $100 bill? How could she be so stupid? I'm just asking, did she know him? Was she going to be paid off? You know she's got to be fired. I mean, you can't have that in your bank. Or perhaps the people who actually innocently just wanted to cash in a $100 bill, maybe they got 200-300 miles down the road, they were passing through, and then discovered, wow, what are they going to do? Turn around and go back? I don't think so. I'm just saying, there could be a couple of possibilities there. Next is from page 35. And this is a really cool article here. And I'm probably going to feature this in my eulogy video because it is a very, I want to highlight some of the strangest ways that people have died that we have on record. Coins crush truck guard. Yeah. How many people die crushed by coins? A guard on an armored truck was crushed under more than 4.5 tons of coins in Moss Point, Mississippi, when the armored truck collided with a car and overturned. Officials identified the victim, an employee of the Armored Car Services, Inc. in New Orleans. Roberts was in the rear of the truck when it overturned, investigators said. Approximately 150 sacks of coins shifted and fell on top of Roberts, the report advised. And if it's 150 sacks, that's roughly around 60 pounds per sack. Wow. How many people in history have died being crushed by coins? I'm just asking. Okay, this comes from Coin World magazine just 2 weeks after the previous one. This is from September 25th of 1968. I've got others, but I'm just pointing out some certain things because a lot of them have articles that don't pertain to our subject here. This comes from page 3. Gold Silver Office turns down request. Under standards prescribed by the Office of Domestic Gold and Silver Operations, Treasury Department, 14 gold coins dated before 1933 were refused import license. There's actually just 14 different ones. There were a lot more than 14 actual coins. Now my question would be, if these guys brought them here to sell them, well, sorry, you're SOL. And there's really no point because you can pick them up from dozens and dozens of dealers in this same book, this same magazine, this same periodical. You could just buy them for 30 bucks, 25 bucks, who cares? They were everywhere. Everybody was selling them, but they got refused. I wonder if that was somebody with a good connection in Washington. Now I'm going to jump over to page 10, a good article on counterfeiting. And this is written by James F. Kelly. Now remember, we met him 29 years ago. We met him 29 years ago. He's advertising in the American Numismatic Association. Okay, too much cannot be said about the counterfeiting of rare coins. Okay, now, rare coins. Keep that in mind. There's a pixelated mug of him for back in 1968 that have to be about as good as they could get. Jim Kelly, now we're going to scroll down here a little bit. There is more counterfeiting going on now than ever before. The methods are more advanced and detection next to impossible, except to the most experienced eye. Well, I guess he would be if he's been in it for over 30 years. Just going to keep scrolling down here to what I want to show you, my next caption here. In all fairness, however, it should be noted that many times counterfeits are sold without the knowledge of the dealer. So the dealers are selling, they're wheeling and dealing in these fake coins. Well, heck, who can tell the difference anymore? Now here on page 20 is an interesting article, Whitman to release guidebooks. And I'm just showing you this to give you a date associated with it because I'm going to be showing some Whitman books later in the future. We're going to look at some in the future. Now jumping over to page 21 here, same date, book features Death of Dollar. A new book, Death of the Dollar by William F. Rickenbacker has been released, okay? And right here it goes, the bulk of the book was written before recent gold crisis. One chapter, right over here starting at the red X, one chapter which may be of special interest to coin collectors is the chapter titled A Portrait of Gold as Metal. The author says that far from being scarce, gold is extremely common. He says that hardly a rock exists without a trace of gold. Boy, good luck getting that book. Oh, wait a minute. It just happens to be in the Lazeria Library. That's right. William F. Rickenbacker, Death of the Dollar. Now, he doesn't just come out and say that gold is plentiful, that it's not scarce. He just says that there's gold, traces of gold in everything, and at $35 an ounce, there's no way it can be extracted. The problem is the labor and intensity with logistics, chemicals, manpower, etc., that is necessary to extract the gold. He does not just say that it's plentiful. He says it's in everything, but the cost of extracting it, it defeats the yield. Now I'm going to look at this advertisement here for a memorial medallion for Robert F. Kennedy. Now, Robert Kennedy was assassinated on June 6th of 1968. And this comes from September 25th. So that's 3 months and a couple of weeks or a few days down the road. And I just find it interesting that I couldn't find this same advertisement anywhere before this date. Okay, he was killed on the 6th, assassinated on the 6th, and we have a commemorative of him, the Robert F. Kennedy Memorial Medal here. Just 3 months, 2 weeks down the road. And I just want to call the logic in is to where in the 1960s, basically in modern times, it took 3 months to make a proof medallion of an assassinated presidential candidate. But how did they do it back in ancient times? How did they do it so quickly in like a couple of weeks? How did they have all those coins in mint condition, proof condition in ancient times? I'm just asking. Texas firm. This comes from page 32. Texas firm plans petition on 5 Israel gold coins. The 5 Israel gold coins presently on the prohibited list of the Office of Domestic Gold and Silver Operations of the U.S. Treasury. Man, boy, we need an acronym for that, don't we? The list includes 50 and 100 pound denominations. Okay, they're presently on the prohibited list. Well, then how come there's so many guys selling them in this issue? Now I'm going to show another one of my father's books from 1970. It's another book I grew up with. And we're going to jump over here to page 156, where we see this annotation here that I find very interesting. The amount of money in circulation in the United States is tied to the amount of gold reserves. Our money will remain stable so long as we adhere to the gold standard at a fixed weight of gold. Since gold has not circulated as money since 1933, it has been stored in bullion form, thus saving the expense of coinage. What, the expense of coinage? Well, why didn't you just let the counterfeiters mint them out for you? If the expense of coinage was so much for the United States Mint to process the gold coinage, why not just let the counterfeit? They were doing fine. They were doing great. Being a standard of value, its worth, gold, is the same whether in the shape of coins or in bars. What? In the shape of coins and bars? Ladies and gentlemen, it's worth 10, 15, 20, 30, millions of times more in the shape of a coin as it is than a bar. Why, shoot, these guys not read their own magazines and publications? It's the same whether in the shape of coins or in bars? Are you kidding me? As a result of the gold surrender order, United States gold coins have become scarce. Okay? since 1933. So that means that all the gold coins before 1933 are scarce. And the small remaining supply of these beautiful and respected representatives of our monetary past is being legally and carefully preserved by the numismatic fraternity. The numismatic fraternity? Well, I wonder who that could be. Scarce. And the small remaining supply. We're going to look at that small remaining supply of scarce gold coins. Now, before I jump in time to the year 1975 of Coin Age magazine, we're going to look and become a little bit more familiar with Executive Order 6102. And this was issued by Franklin Delano Roosevelt, forbidding the hoarding of gold coin, gold bullion, and gold certificates. Okay, the limitation on gold ownership was repealed by President Gerald Ford. And he made it legal in December the 31st of 1974. So for several years here, all gold coins and the gold certificates. And this is what made my father scratch his head. He goes, how in the world did you end up with so many of them in pristine condition when they were all supposed to be turned in? The gold certificate, I could see he said, I could see somebody holding on to their gold coins or their gold bullion, or just leaving them in the deposit box, or not even remembering that they even had them. But the gold certificates, the paper money that had gold, and gold at this time was $20.67 per troy ounce. And the fines and the fees and the sentence of 10 years, $10,000 fine, etc., etc. But here it says 6102 led to the extreme rarity of the 1933 gold double eagle here. And so it says here about 20 illegal coins were stolen. Well, how are you going to steal stuff out of the United States Mint? Unless you know the guy that works there and you know the boss. All of this stuff was heavily guarded. Accounting, there was nothing left to chance. These coins here went out the back door. Now they had let's see, they had stamped out, what, 45,000 of them, and only 20 coins were stolen? No. I believe that a whole lot more of those were stolen, or they just went out the back door. And I believe that in the next 50 years or so, you're going to start seeing a whole bunch more just pop up on the scene everywhere. And anybody can look at this. I don't usually show something that's online, and some of this stuff is questionable. And so you can look at it and read it for yourself. And here is the titulate executive order by the President, issued April 5th, 1933. And all of these government bulletins were always posted or put up in each post office. Postmaster General James A. Farley. All persons are required to deliver on or before May 1st, 1933, all gold coin, gold bullion, and gold certificates now owned by them to a Federal Reserve Bank branch or agency, or to any member bank of the Federal Reserve System. Well, if you study this a little bit more, you'll see that they changed it in May, and then they changed it again in August of the same year. Gold certificates may be identified by the words gold certificate. That's pretty straightforward, isn't it? Criminal penalties for violation of executive order, $10,000 fine or 10 years imprisonment, or both. Provided in Section 9 of the order.